Hi, I'm MJ Cole. Welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to run through my new track, Pictures in My Head, and kind of show you how I began to build it to make it what it is today. Okay, so this track that became Pictures in My Head actually started off as an instrumental, as many of my things do, and they normally start at the piano. So I think I probably had a beat, some kind of basic beat. It might just be a click track, and everything normally starts here for me. And this track, the chords for this track are based, they're all tenths. I got kind of very interested in just playing tenths, very simple chords. So a tonic, a dominant, and then a minor third above, and then running them in parallel. So I think I was just playing around with these and came up with just, and then, and then I had as well. So that's what I basically came up with, and probably to a click track. So I had that, and I think I recorded it on the computer, and so that's all really the only involvement the piano had here, just for those beginning chords. And the track actually opens with there's a guitar sample, and then you hear these piano chords, and then I've kind of interpreted those chords MIDI-wise and used synths and things like that. So that's it for the piano bit, but this is where the whole thing started, at the piano. This is where I'm from, the piano. This is where I like being the most, the piano. So that's it for this part, and then I'll move over and show you how I kind of built it on the screen in Logic and put the whole track together. So this track began as some chords, but I showed you that on the piano just now, but I've just remembered that I think the whole thing actually came from a guitar loop, basically. So the key was inspired by a guitar loop. So I think probably the way I started it was just with a click, and then I had up the loop cloud thing, and I was just running through, I think, guitar loops, and I've actually found the one which I used here in my loop cloud, and it's this one. So I basically just dragged that out, and that's what appears here. So this is how it all began. So then the piano chords that I showed you earlier, they were recorded in from my piano with these mics and through my TubeTech Pre. It's my go-to piano setup, and I haven't really changed it because it kind of sounds so good. It's quite a sort of intimate sound, and you can hear the hammers and the keys, and it's not like a clean Elton John style thumpy sort of piano, pop piano. It's kind of much more esoteric, textual. Anyway, so I would have recorded that straight in here as audio. It's interesting this, because you can hear how it was before. So I recorded over that guitar loop the tenths chords that I showed you earlier. So there you are. I haven't had to chop it, which is pretty good. So yeah, that's just a straight recording from the piano. So that was kind of the beginning vibe, I think. This is an earlier version on the screen. It got a lot more complex later. But at this point, it's still an instrumental. And I've called this What's Up, actually. This is out now as well as an instrumental as it originally was. So I'm just going to play through and just see what I've got up to here. I've changed here. Yep, so they're just the tenths. that continued there. I think I actually recorded this as a voice note as well. I've got a really early voice note of just this guitar thing and just the piano chords and kind of me. I won't play it to you because it's embarrassing, but and I haven't actually got to the next bit yet, but I just imagined it being a kind of acoustic, beginning entrance to the song with piano and this guitar thing and maybe some vocal on it, and then it exploding into something fairly unexpected and something non-acoustic and something future and a bit more angular and in your face. So basically what I did is played those chords in MIDI basically, to take it into kind of this other world. And you can see I've tried these chords. These are the chords here. These are the chords. Yeah, so you can see the tenths here. And I think I've chosen so yeah, I've put the MIDI chords in, and this I think is an omnisphere setting, yes, sploosh. It's an omnisphere thing. So I've obviously tried these in different sounds as well. Same MIDI. It's probably omnisphere as well, yeah. Crappy keys. Serum thing. I didn't use that one either, but this is kind of the way I do it. I try it in different sounds. I kind of got the chords and I'm just looking for a sort of sonic bass to it all. This will probably just be a sine wave EXS. Yeah, it's just, this is me playing the chords in to start with actually very simply, just nothing on the EXS. And then I've tried kind of moving it through different sounds. So that will be the basis of the notes that I've kind of copied over. But in the end, I ended up with this omnisphere thing, sploosh, and it's fairly simple, this tune. It's quite good. Simple is good. Some of the things I do end up being a nightmare. But so this is all the instrumental still, and I've added some drums and stuff. I'll just play a little bit of how it drops in. This is the very beginning stage. I still call it a Vibe 420 What's Up. So this is just me messing around, just doing loads of different grooves and seeing what happens. So after the piano we get high sploosh. I can see that I haven't actually, you'll see later in the track, actually decided to change the chords there, but this is the very beginning of it all. So just to run through what's in, it's fairly simple. There's a kick drum, and the kick drum is probably from EXS. Yeah, it's from EXS. Matty Kicks 1. So I have, most of my samples come from EXS. I have a huge EXS library that I've just collected over all the years. There's just like loads and loads and loads of stuff. Some of it kind of Loop Masters bits and loads of Akai stuff that I had from back in the day. And I got someone to Peter. Nice one, Peter. To run through all my Akai discs from the days where people used to just bring in vinyl and you take like one drum sample. So I got all that early stuff in EXS now, which is great. And lots of that was using my sample pack actually. Anyway, so yeah, the kick is from EXS. Just see it like this. So there's a kick, and there's a snare, kind of dubstep-y sort of snare. This is from Splice, so I've just chosen that, got that from Splice. And then we have some hats, which are kind of swung. This is all full triplets, 16 T's for the old school Cubase heads, but in Logic these days it's 24, so triplets. So those hats, so basically the drums together are I'm quite into on Logic doing making groups. So I use track stacks. So I've created a track stack with this, and it's up here. So everything's kind of routing through to, what is it, bus 17. So that all appears here. And I remember on this track, I've got a big kind of reverb actually over all the drums. So I've actually got this reverb on, which is it does a lot to the drums in this track. They're fairly tame by themselves, but I've got this on. And then also, you see from the kick track, I'm running a side chain. So I'm just running that from bus 1. The snares on bus 1 as well, and that's it. So basically, I've got a subgroup here going from bus 1 for a side chain, and I suspect all my synths are, yeah, they're all going to bus 2. And on bus 2, I have my side chain compressor, and I'm using the Logic one here. I quite often use the Waveforce one, but. So we'll see, we've got these and this together. So there's the side chain at bus 1. Just running through this. And then imagine all these other keys are running through there as well, which they are. So we have this reverb on the drum bus, and also I've got a decapitator thing. I love the Soundtoys stuff. I couldn't live without it. So let me try and show you what's going on with that. Let's just solo these drums. So this is just adding a little bit of crunch, not a great deal. I always like it on setting E for some reason, but you can hear if I overdid it, it'd be. So this is after the reverb, which is a bit weird as well. But I love this thing. It's good you can kind of mix it in a little bit here on the mix. Yeah, so we've got a reverb and a decapitator after that. So that's basically the drums. I think I've tried here, you can see I've tried some like hats and stuff like that, which I haven't used. I don't know what these are. And this would be like an extra thing over the top. Didn't use that in the end. Now the bass is from Contact. Been using this a lot recently. So it's basically a pretty simple 808. Let me just show you what's going on. So this is just following the bass note. So it's like a C minor thing. So it's just following the bass note of the chords. Yeah, that's that. And that's basically got nothing on it at this stage at all. So the bass is actually from a plugin on Contact called 808 Warfare. It doesn't pop up here on the left, answered on the postcard, I don't know why that is, but I have a kind of setting for that. But 808 Warfare on Contact is what I'm using for the bass here. I'm using it a bit too much probably this now. I've kind of got into kind of distorting it in different ways and layering it recently. So this is a very basic stage, so I'll just play through a little bit more because I haven't actually shown you what's going on. I'll just play through from here and you can see what stage it was You can see what condition it was in this stage. So this is the very beginning. Just played some things on the piano, just knocked up a little drum beat, played the MIDI chords in, tried them on a few different synths. Thought the synths are cool. It'd be nice to kind of duck them a bit. So I've just added the kick and the snare into a side chain. Just kind of, so I've got bus 2 is now my go-to ducking bus. So you see probably later with these other sounds, I probably added it to the same bus, and it just means it's all feeding through and you get this kind of, you know, ducking sound. But I'll just play you from where the drums drop in. Different sound, the same chords. Gabrielle, swinging pipes. Oh, here I've changed the chords as the piano was here. Ooh. Okay, we're back. And we're back to the piano again. So that will have been it at this stage, really. Just very short, just some kind of intro, drop into something that could be a verse if it had a vocal on. I just saw the Ride as well, had a much more impressive set of plugins on it before people say, oh, you don't ban anything, you don't put any plugins or anything. This has got loads of plugins on, this Ride. It's got an 1176, it's got another decapitator. H reverb again, I was into that this time. I think this has got its own duck on, yeah. So sometimes I want the sidechain to be slightly different. So on this Ride, it's probably completely nuked by the sounds of it. So if just solo these, you'll hear. Yeah, I've just nuked it with a Wave C1. I use the C1 quite a lot on sidechain. It's rare I use the Logic one actually. And without these plugins, it probably sounds quite different. Yeah. Yeah, that gives it like a massive ducking thing. So really, that's it. At this early stage, this is kind of like the first sketch. So I'll have just had loads of these on my computer. I just run through, I'll kind of sit down if I'm doing a day of just vibes, I kind of get an idea or just start messing around on the piano. So this is like vibe 420, I think it is. So I've done a lot of kind of vibes. So I generally just try and get things done very quickly and don't think, oh, it needs to be this or it needs to be that or it should be, that's not going to be club or blah, blah. I just kind of let stuff flow and don't really have any, I try not to hold myself back and just keep it going, and then I'll just basically print it at the end, and I've probably printed this and just call it, just think of a name, called it What's Up, just printed it and just put it in the bank. So I'll kind of listen through them, or when top liners or singers come in, I'll kind of run through all the different sketches I have, and it's good to have a great selection because sometimes they just pick stuff that you wouldn't expect them to get vibed up on. But so basically that was it at the beginning. So that was quite an early incarnation. I think that's it for this stage. Yeah, you can kind of see my setup here. This is kind of a template that I have set up on my computer. So I have a spec mixer over here, which is a big line-in thing that all my synths go through. So that's all ready to play the whole time. I don't know if it's going to work now. No, it's not going to work. It was muted, isn't it? That's fine. So all these synths over here are just ready to go at any point. It's just part of my template. The piano that I recorded on here is permanently set up on these inputs. When I record piano, I just kind of, I have these all locked so that they stay there, and then I can just record piano immediately on that. This is all running through my Lynx Aurora, and I have all kind of nice bits of recording over here. So the piano, I've got some Josephson, I think they're called C42 mics, 2 cardioids, and they run through this TubeTech mic pre and then straight into my Lynx Aurora. So that's all set up. I have my Rhodes over there that's permanently plugged in, ready to go. I have an SM7 mic that's really good for kind of just sketching, writing. It's got a lead that goes all the way around the room, so that's kind of good for that. And then I have my main mic, which is a Flea that's kind of set up there. But just to let you know, that's kind of part of my template that I have, so I can just record straight away, like put piano down, put Rhodes down, all the synths are kind of working, so you can fiddle with them immediately. So that's that. So yeah, at the beginning, this was a little Vibe 420 What's Up. And now I'm going to move on and see how it kind of progressed. So I had my Vibe 420 What's Up, and I was doing a session with a singer called Grace. And the way I kind of run my sessions is, well, it can be anything, but like I said before, I have a massive load of vibes that are just sitting there. I might have kind of ideas or manuscript that I've written down for chords on the piano. I might have a little drum loop, or all these different vibes. And when we get together in the studio, we just kind of run through stuff. And quite often, if someone's top lining or songwriting, it comes very, very quickly. I've learnt this more and more and more. It will come like immediately. You play something and suddenly these vocal ideas come through, and something becomes kind of very workable on instantly. And I think I must have played this to her, and she was instantly like, yeah, I think I could do something to that. So basically, we would have sat down and tried different things. But this is the very first, these were the very first bits of audio that were recorded.
Exactly what I like. Calling home a sofa bed, lying wide awake at night, seeing pictures in my head. But when you hold me, I'm slowly being mesmerized. You're exactly what I like, and I'm hooked on what you said. You're my gold, you're my diamond to feel alive when you're holding my eyes. I'll come to life. Yeah. May you leave the lights on.
Alright, I won't play more. That is a bit mean actually, playing the very beginning vocal, because it ended up not being like that. She basically sang it much better later, but this is just the writing stage, just sketching. What's interesting actually is we tried a pre-chorus here with these different chords. Just with the guitar loop, I think it is. I might have tried piano on it as well. Oh no, that's the other chords. So there's a kind of pre-chorus or bridge, as we say in the UK, that's in here, which interestingly enough, you'll see later ends up being the middle 8. So we completely sacked that off, and that became a section later. But this is the very beginning of the vocals. So these are just kind of sketched ideas, and it's literally got nothing on it. I always chuck waves, L1s on everything. Just because it's very, very quick, it just keeps it in line, and it's very processor light as well. So I kind of quite often end up with a lot of L1s on loads of things. Yeah, it's kind of my go-to squasher as I'm going along. As you see, as I kind of move along, I take the L1s off and move on to different kind of nicer compressors that aren't just brick walling everything, but it's incredibly useful to me, and I love that. You can see on the guitar here I've got one of these reverbs that I've only just discovered actually, part of the Native Instruments stuff. But this soft tube stuff's amazing actually. So I've just used this guitar thing. Let's have a listen to that. Guitar. I don't know what it's doing. Oh yeah. Yeah, so I love that reverb, it's good. I've only just discovered it. I always like things I just discovered and use them a lot. It's interesting going back through things. I only did this very recently actually. It's a very, very new record. But it's interesting when I go back kind of years and years through things, I just find out I've had a phase of using a certain plugin and I hardly remember using it now, but it's just the kind of phases we go through, right? Different paintbrushes, different days, different shirts, different socks. So yeah, so this is the very beginning. And you can see it's literally just kind of a verse and a chorus and the middle 8 thing. I don't think there's anything else particularly special at this stage. The drums still look the same. Just kind of messed around trying a few different things. I'm not going to play you these vocals because they might be a bit embarrassing. But there will have been loads of different ideas just tried in different places here. I've tried a lot of different things with Grace. All these, we won't listen to them, but these will be just like different vibes, different ideas. The pianos are still there, but it's interesting, we kind of added this pre-chorus or bridge to kind of try and get there. In the end, that came out. So I think that's it for this level. This is the beginning of the writing process. So just beginning to record and getting some stuff in and just kind of feeling it out really. So now I'll move on to a slightly later arrangement of the same thing. That's about all we've got time for at the moment, but if you want to see the other half of this, you need to go out and buy the latest issue of Computer Music.